Welcome into the SWATify podcast. I'm Travis Creasy with my co-partner in crime, Ben Hayes. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
We are excited today to be with probably the most requested of our interviews, the SWAT team, Skits with the Truth. We got Lonnie Jones.
Hey, guys.
We got Rick Schatz.
Hey.
Derek Horst.
Hello.
And Michael Rosenblum.
Good afternoon.
Something about the creative juices. Is there a process that you go through, or is there things that kind of hit you throughout the year, or kind of both? Is there, without giving away all the ingredients, but I know you bring us a fairly good skeleton, and you obviously let, comedic geniuses work on it and add the meat to the bones and stuff. But
Well, somewhere down the line, the idea of facts, concepts, applications got hammered into my head. I started writing a bulletin article, and they gave me 64 lines. That's a trifold column, top to bottom, at the insert your graphic. So I learned to tell stories and use the terms in the stories as the application. And so started using almost obvious things. We tell a story about this thing we saw on the ropes course, and all you have to do to solve this problem on the ropes course is have a rope and a board. But we bring a rope, a board, an egg beater, a rubber chicken, and these groups will try to use all this stuff, and you make one simple statement. You don't have to have all the toys to be successful. And so you get an idea. Oh, here's the setup for it. Well, the setup is what sucks the audience in. It gets them to imagine an elevator, a cross shop, a dude's pushing a car, whatever, and then finding that the hardest part is the line, the ending line that you deliver, and it's said and done. And I just put those in my phone or put them in a folder, and as I'm hunting or as I'm running, just think about them throughout the year. When Larry says, this is your thing, I start taking anything that hits toward that thing. And then what we do, we don't really have scripts. We have a few pretty hard lines, but I was told by somebody who actually does theater, a trained actor, that we do what's known as a skeleton script. It's a combination of structure plus improv. And so the process is, this is where I want to start, this is how I want to end, and then as a group, we play with it. If you and I do a skit, it's different than if me and Michael do the skit. Mm-hmm. And it's the free flow of us playing off of each other and being a part of that team, I think is the magic. I've seen some guys that are better actors than us, but you can tell they're acting. And I always Derek always makes fun of it. I just don't want this to look too rehearsed. And sometimes we don't practice.
Tonight will be that occasion.
Goes, well, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah. Well, do you ever get nervous putting myself and Michael on the stage together by ourselves? No. You should.
There are combinations where you go, this has to happen. I like to see Rick and Michael play off of each other, which is just golden. I like to see you and Michael together, and I really, really like to be on stage with Derek. Now, I enjoy doing anything with you guys, but if I can work out for me and Derek to get some stuff on stage together, and I hate to just cherry pick and do my favorite stuff, and I tend to get to assign the parts, but those are my combo kind of stuff. I like to see that kind of stuff happen. And I like to kind of turn the Creasy beast loose, man.
You don't know what's going to happen, but it's probably going to be good.
Well, when you do that, just limit the lines and go. Then you'll be fine.
Michael's rapid wit.
Oh, man.
Just
Michael and anybody works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he used to do this character from Maysville called Armando. And Armando's a little bit light in loafers. And worked in a fashion shop. And he does not practice it. He brings it out on stage at the show.
Yeah.
He's been doing this straight lace, welcome to the shop, would you like to try something? And then all of a sudden, we're live under lights with an audience that says, hello, welcome to Armando's. And where does this guy come from? So, on a trip to CYC, and we're not even doing SWAT, Michael's walking down Hamilton Place Mall in Chattanooga. We stopped there to eat lunch. I see him coming. I thought, I'm going to get him. I got him right here. Well, I scream at the top of my lungs in this crowded mall, Armando! Michael! He hollers, Raul! Runs up and kisses me on both cheeks and hugs me in the middle of this food court. And
That is
just
amazing.
shuts me down, man.
That's
And
amazing.
I like to see that come out when we start practicing. We go, write that down.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of develop
Well,
organically.
you know, I can remember sitting at CYC once again in Rico Suave. And I can remember sitting there going, wow. You know, like, I wanting to know, like, how much of this is predetermined, you know, how much of this is on the fly, because I just remember being impressed by that. And I'll just be honest, and not to go around and brag on everybody, but if there's a combo that you like, feel free to talk about it. I obviously, there's a natural chemistry with my cousin here, because we've been on stage being goofballs for a long time now, but I kind of like the intimidation factor that I get being on stage with Michael, because it's like, you better be on your toes, man, because you just never know what's coming. And, you know, it's pretty neat.
And Derek will drop an
experience.
Easter egg on you
Oh,
to
yeah.
get you to crack up.
Yeah.
You know, he wants you
Well,
to,
the funny
he
thing
wants
with
to
Derek-
make you go, lights!
Yeah. Well, Derek, he'll do that to me, and I'll just miss it because I'm unobservant. And you know, one of you guys will bring. Did you catch that? What Derek? I said, I had no idea. You know,
It's in my own
so
world.
you know, Derek can make you absolutely look a fool, and if you're me, you have no idea. So I'm giving you all kinds of weapons here, but please don't use it against me too much. But
I won't spoil the skit for this year, but there was one that Lonnie had. We need to do this one about fitness with these two guys, and he had this idea. I said, that has to be you and Derek, Lonnie. There are no options.
Yeah.
This is Lonnie and Derek's skits. They have claimed it, and that'll happen. So
There's
that'll-
no typecasting
No.
here.
no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, I told my wife, I told Jackie, I said, I'm assigning the parts, and I've got a major, I said, I feel like I'm just writing myself in all this stuff. And I said, but Michael said he wanted me and Derek to do this. She goes, I can't imagine it being done without you.
Yeah.
It's
not-
no-brainer.
Can't happen.
Well, it's really neat because I think just by you talking, I think this bears out. But just to say it, maybe too preachy, to say it's pretty awesome to see how the Lord, and I feel that's the way, you know, has brought people in. And you even mentioned, you know, Rick came in, had to go, and then is back, you know, and it's pretty awesome. Michael mentioned the idea of the camaraderie that goes on. And, I mean, you want to talk about giving each other a hard time. It's 12 hours out here to Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And the entire time, once again, you got to stay on your toes.
You don't
'cause
want to
never
be
know.
driving the van.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
just put it that way.
And it's really neat to see that combination.
But to speak to that too, back when you were in the hospital, and we're glad to have you here with us this
Amen.
year, because last year
it's good to be back.
you were not able to come with us. But I went to the hospital one day to visit you, and all of a sudden, everybody in SWAT just shows up. Like, I don't think we planned. Y'all may have planned it,
Yeah.
you know, on the Huntsville end, but I came in, and then here comes Michael and Lonnie, and it was like, did we call this meeting or what? And it was just such a cool thing to,
Well,
all emerge on you.
I've always
at
had
that
to be
one
on a
time.
team, and you know, this is what it feels like to me to be back in a team. I've played music. I've been on an actual football team, and it just means a lot to me to have a group of guys that, you know, you can call on and spend time on, and it's good to have Lisa with us to keep us in line. But this year she's kind of been the one going, hey, having some fun at our expense. So hey, she can definitely
mixes
keep her
it up
yeah.
a little
We're
bit
not going
too.
there today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We
Let me
won't
throw in
go all
a couple
there.
of last minute caveats.
All right.
So the elders asked us to do this at Parkway, and I found these jumpsuits at an Army surplus store. And I went into the elders and said, look, I need to buy, and of course I'm a youth minister, 22 or 23 years old, and I go, but they're expensive. Benny Pinkley, Dr. Pinkley, highest paid civilian in the missile defense program, says, you might understand that what you think is expensive and what we think is expensive might be different. And so he bought this, the elders bought this set of these flight suits, everything from extra small to extra large, and then $1,000
Wow.
on 2 lights. Wayne Owens built us the light trees out of metal pipes and wood. And then Marianne Sellers made our black curtain that we put up behind the old backdrop. And those people contributed to that. When I left Parkway to go into private practice, I said, if I continue to do SWAT, the new youth minister at Parkway might have some loyalty issues. So I just stopped it for about a year. And I started getting some phone calls, and we started doing it with the young people at Maysville, and eventually just the college-age kids at Maysville, and then eventually got the chance to say, hey, I'm just going to recruit some men. My big concern was, will 5 or 6 middle-aged guys be able to relate to a bunch of teenagers? And I even asked a bunch of, you think this is even feasible or possible? So the worst thing you can do is try it, see what happens. And so Andrew Lamica performed with us, and Seth Bowen has performed with us, and Troy Farmer has been on stage but said no words with us.
Yep.
And in the modern age of SWAT, that's our group. And Lord will bless us and keep us all healthy. That's kind of where we'll stay, I think. But I bought the light set that we have out of my budget from my business. And so for a long time, SWAT was sponsored by Jones, LPC, and Youth Resources. But we rarely go to anything that's small enough for our little bitty light setup to work at anymore. Yeah. We have to contract with the industrial people now to even have a light board.
Well, I think a lot of credit should go to those. I'm glad you mentioned those churches that have been a major part of this. Obviously, Challenge Youth Conference, Larry Davenport keeps having us back, keeps taking that challenge.
It is a challenge.
That chance, and I know that you handed out his email address last night just in case, but but we appreciate everybody that gives us the opportunity. I know we've been to Missouri in the last few years and all over Tennessee and Alabama, and
I was thinking about something you said. I don't remember how Larry worded it last year. There was something he said, have your team or you remember what it was? It was something he sent out, like who's your, and I always think of like the mighty men that David had, that group of people that you can rely on and you can trust and you can call. And that's this group of people right here. I mean, it's the guys that are sitting in this room. We have a text message that goes around. We constantly all year round. Even
that I could have a drink from Bethlehem.
Yeah,
could you do that for me?
Water from Bethlehem.
Water. Got you. Water.
Back up.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is that group for me. I mean, there's some other guys that I'm super close to back home and have a good relationship with, and I bounce stuff off them too. But this is one of those groups. I mean, if I've got something big going on in my life, one of the first groups that I send that to is this group right here. Yeah. And so
any combination, anybody you like, not to throw anybody on the bus or any of that, is there anything combo wise, like we said, of being on the stage with certain folks or anything like that?
You, Travis.
Me?
You.
Appreciate that.
I always like to have Rick either be very, very incredulous and not able to have the tomfoolery and be that kind of, not the straight man, because he's actually the funny guy in the skit.
Yeah.
But he's getting on to us for getting out of our lane. And that's a perfect role for him. And if I can write those scenarios, or then when Rick's a commentator.
I was just to say, when he was the news anchor and shooting it out to Michael,
who's the field anchor, which is great.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
There's an elder at Highland Park, Michael South, that he will still occasionally walk up to me and go, Roger. He loves the Roger.
Yeah.
Anytime I say Roger, I can see him cracking up.
Michael doing what's the reporter's name? It's Mike
on the mic with Mike.
Yeah. But it's Roger Lewis is what it's patterned after. Yeah. That's money.
But he always mentions somebody that's Roger. I'm here with Roger.
Of course, we've got super accent over here. Ben Hayes from Marvin the Martian to Nigel Nature.
I think Michael's got that too. So
it was last night. We Ben did a Tasmanian Devil brief segment, and Lonnie stopped him, and I said, that was actually pretty spot on Tasmanian Devil segment.
Yeah.
We need to do dueling accents one day just for fun. All of us, whatever voice we could come up with, trying to say the same line.
Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
As we like to wrap up each episode, we like to kind of bring things down a little bit to get to know folks personally as we interview them. So we'll talk about several different questions very quickly, kind of fire through them. What movie moment really strikes you? Or maybe a movie, if you don't have one of those, maybe a movie that you could just watch over and over and over and over again. Lonnie, I think you said you had.
All right, I've got one I want to close on.
Okay.
But my favorite all-time movie is a movie called The 13th Warrior. It's written by Michael Crichton, and it's the backstory of the epic poem Beowulf. And it's about a Islamic cleric that gets banished, and he has to live in a world with Vikings, and they fight these monsters. And in the last battle scene of the movie, they think they've raised a dragon, but really they're riding off this mountain and they're carrying torches, and it's not a fireworm, it's a cavalry. And this guy comes back and says, "Is it a dragon?" He goes, "No, it's cavalry mounted." And the guy goes, I think I really prefer a dragon.
Yeah.
And then and he's this Arab cleric, and he's putting on his gloves, and he's getting his sword. And he prays his prayer. And it touched me in the movie, but I had to confront that I may have done the last thing I was going to do. Climb my last tree, climb my last rock, when I had my gut rupture. And I just pulled it up. Merciful Father, I have squandered my days with plans of many things. This was not among them. But at this moment, I beg only to live the next few moments well. For all we have thought and have not thought, all we ought to have said and have not said, all we ought to have done and have not done, I pray thee, God, forgive us.
Well, I'm not sure how we're going to follow that one up.
Where do you
It's
go
a great,
from
great podcast,
Right.
fellas.
have anything.
And that's awesome. That's
Powerful
great.
stuff.
That's great. Who wants to follow? I'll follow that up and let you guys think some more. But kind of, obviously not along those lines, but something that gets me fired up. In fact, when I was in the hospital, they had to stop putting the Rocky films on because I'd get so pumped and had nowhere really to go. But in the Rocky movie, the first one, and I remember growing up and thinking, I hate the first one, right? I hate the first one because he loses in the first one. Not to give that away, the spoiler, but when he goes the night before the match, the fight, and he goes out and he goes to the arena and nobody's there, and the guy walks in, he says he's got the shorts on wrong. He's looks like he's trying to think of anything else but fighting Creed. And he comes home, and his wife says, what's going on? He says, I can't beat him. I'm thinking, it's the night before the fight, and you're already beat. You're sitting there, I can't beat him. Can't beat him. And, she's like, what? And he goes, I just want to go the distance. I want to go the distance with Creed. I want to take him every round, and I'm like, oh, okay, now it's on. Let's go,
You don't have to beat him, just don't quit.
You just don't quit. I just want to look in that guy's eyes and go the distance with Creed. And man, that line, it's completely different now because it used to be the second was my favorite when she comes out of the coma and goes, just win, and he's over, oh, what are we waiting for? And they go off, but that line of, I just want to go the distance. I want to give him everything I got. I want to be there at the end, and that's a great movie moment for me. So, next.
I guess somewhat of a segue from the prayer there that Lonnie read. I think if there's a movie that if it ever came on television and I'm flipping through, which is rare with two children these days, but here I had a few moments to flip through, and the Shawshank Redemption was on. Shawshank Redemption is just one of those, no matter how many dozens of times I may have seen it, it's just, one of those uplifting movies, a story about what's the word I'm looking for? Redemption, I guess. But no, I guess though, was it one of the last lines? He's talking to Red there in the prison, and he says, get busy living or get busy dying. And I think there's a Christian mindset to that as well. So that movie and that line has stuck with me.
I've seen all that movie, but I've never seen it in order. I literally come in at a different part every time, and I need to sit down and watch that one because that's one I think that's even been said a couple of times on the podcast. But
don't squander your life away is what I took from that. That's I always remember that line.
Well, the movie for me that if I'm channel surfing and I run across this movie, the surfing stops. I'm gonna stop on this movie. Is Tombstone.
Tombstone. Yeah, yes,
I can watch that one over and over and over. There are a couple others that I really like watching, but Tombstone is probably
so many lines, so many great lines in that movie. It's so good.
I can't pass it up.
No.
Cannot pass it. But then probably the moment that struck me the most in a movie was an American Sniper. I read the book while Chris Kyle was still alive, and then the movie wasn't done until after he was dead, obviously. And I saw that movie at the theater the first time. And at the end of that movie, when they were showing the scenes of his funeral and the procession, and the flags waving and people out there in their wheelchairs, and that stuff hits me every time. But then when that movie was over in the theater, after most movies, when the credits are rolling, people start talking. They're talking about everything, whatever's going on at the time. In that movie, that theater stayed stone cold silent. Was completely silent while people stood up and slowly filed out of that theater. It was completely silent. You could hear every little footstep on the carpet.
Wow. I haven't been able to bring myself to see it yet. I keep trying to work up the guts to do it, but I haven't seen it yet.
It was an incredible book, and then I thought they did a good job with the movie.
That's hard. That's difficult to do and honor the book.
Can I cheat and share another one?
Absolutely, man.
Real quick. Friday Night Lights. You seen that one? It came out in 2003 or something like that. But the very last scene, I guess, of the game there, that championship game, and the what are they called? The Permian Panthers. They're playing Carter, I think. So you had the very last play, man. That music's going. You got this emotional, intense final drive scene. They're going down to the end zone, and they stop and get stuffed right there on the 1 yard line, I think. And that clock runs out. Game's over. They lose the game, but you got them all just huddled around each other. That camaraderie, I guess, is what gets me when I watch that ending scene. But I never forget, Tim McGraw plays that guy's dad, and he's kind of this drunk and telling his son how sorry he is and never amount to anything. But he comes out there in the end of that game and puts that championship ring on his finger. And you think about Christianity. And sometimes people think that they fall short. They get discouraged, and they beat themselves up, and I'll never amount to anything. And what it's like on crossing that finish line, and you got that great cloud of witnesses that Hebrews talks about cheering you on, and somebody coming out and putting that ring on, or that robe and that crown, and saying, "Good job.
Yep.
You didn't fall short. You're a winner." That was an impactful moment there.
One of the best, and this, in my mind, one of the best movies to come out of the 80s was Top Gun. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I love the conflict. And now you got to put yourself in the 80s. Okay, I don't even think they fly the F-14s anymore. I think those have been decommissioned. But
the F-18 Hornet now, baby.
Yeah. So you got Maverick, who's the kid that kind of runs outside the lines, colors outside the lines, and he goes to this special flight school. And you've got the guy Iceman, who kind of flies within the lines, but is very strict. And they're competing for this Top Gun trophy. And throughout the movie, they go back and forth. And they're at one point, you're supposed to stay with your wingman. And so Maverick leaves Iceman and goes off after somebody else. And he, I think Goose, his pilot, gets killed. Not killed, is the guy, his backseater. So they have this big accident, and there's this big blow up, and Maverick leaves the school, but then comes back at the end, and him and Iceman end up on the same ship, and it's a real situation. Mm-hmm. And so they go up together, they're again together, and he doesn't leave the wingman this time. He stays with him. So he comes back, and there's this ship. Of course, Maverick shot down the guy. He gets down, everybody's got him up on the shoulders, and they're congratulating him. And he sets him down, and Iceman yells at him through the crowd. He says, "You!" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You're still dangerous." And you think, oh, he's not going to give him credit. And he said, "But you can be my wingman anytime." And they hug. And then Maverick says, "No, you can be mine." So I realize it's a very cheesy moment, but I really love that movie. It's really a good ending like that. Yeah, so.
I got all kinds of movies that I like, and it's hard to pick any. I mean, I'm probably, if you're scrolling through the one, I mean, I love It's a Wonderful Life. I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but, there's just a really great story there. But I love Braveheart, too. And Braveheart was just one of those first movies that kind of did that. And I think about that quote. You guys are sharing the quotes, and I can remember the last line, but it's that one where he's, running back and forth in front of the army. They're getting ready, and he says, "I fight, fight, and you may die. Run, and you'll live, at least for a while. And dine in your beds many years from now. Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom?" And that kind of goes back to that Hebrews 11 thing. Look, some of those guys lived and conquered, and some of those guys died. But the fact is that they all were victorious, and they all lived through it. And I just always think about that line and think that's just a great one. There's a bunch of other movies I love, but certainly a great one. You got one, Travis, or Lonzo?
Well, Lonnie, you said that you had something that you wanted to close us out with, and then we'll give you that opportunity to do that.
Well, there's a movie, it's called Tears of the Sun. It's about a Navy SEAL team. There's some ethnic cleansing going on in Africa. And they get sent in to get one American doctor and get her out of this village and go. Well, they lie to her and everything else. Bring your people here. And when they get her to the helicopter, they're going to put her on and leave everybody standing in the jungle. And it's super emotional, and the language is terrible. But it's Bruce Willis. And then they decide to come back with his team, reinsert, and lead these people on foot to the Cameroon border. And him and his squad of SEALs, special operators, are hunkered down in the bush, and they're talking about what they're going to do. And the broken dialogue goes like this. "Help me out here." The other guy says, "How are you doing?" He goes, "What do you mean, how am I doing? You know what I'm talking about. You know as well as I do. When we left that mission, those people were dead. And so we take 28 men, women, and children, and we walk for a day. And you got to keep them moving." "Well, I'm confused." Well, the boys are confused too, talking about their team. And he says, "When we get to the LZ, do we leave them behind like we did? I'm confused." He said, "The boys are confused." He says, "We'll get to your point. Why did you turn that bird around?" He said, "Well, talk to me. I'm with you either way. You know that." And then later on in the same discussion, they're talking about this. He says, "As to whether me being in or out, you know the answer to that. And I'm surrounded by men that I know will back me. Not just the people in this room, including Lisa, but several guys outside this circle and the other SWAT team that I work with. I'm honored and privileged that when a situation comes up, it's, am I in or out? You know the answer to that without asking. And that the honor in that movie, in that one scene, is that I've been blessed to be surrounded by people that would look me in the eye and go, you don't even have to ask. You know the answer to that. I'll back you. And I'm blessed and honored and privileged to be surrounded by people in my life that back me.
I can't help but think about when Jesus was going back to Jerusalem or towards Jerusalem, and Thomas, he says, "Well, let's go that we may die with
Let's
him."
go that we may die with him.
Just it was just understood. I'm going with you. If you're going, I'm going, and we're blessed to be.
And he gets no press for that. He's always doubting.
It's always doubting Thomas.
I was told. Rick, Lonnie, Derek, Michael, Ben, Lisa. We sure do appreciate it, and we will talk to you again soon.